Cool. We're live. So this is episode 4 of the Complete West podcast. I guess, is that like officially our title now? I don't know if there's
working title for now, at least.
As many words as possible. Maybe that's the title. But this is our first time bringing on some members from the gym. You guys may recognize their faces, but we've got Susan McConnell and we've got Jamie. So I think it'd probably be best to just sort of start off with both of you guys introducing yourselves, just maybe some of the members that don't know who you are. Give us a brief background on where you're from, what you do, and maybe your CrossFit origin story.
Okay, you're first, Susan and Jamie.
I'm Susan McConnell. I grew up in Lawton and first started CrossFit. I was in my 20s, I guess. A friend of mine, she got into it and invited me to go to CrossFit. I didn't want to do it. I think everyone's kind of in the same boat, like, what is this, But I thought it was neat because I'm the type of person that can't go to a gym, like a Gold's or Crunch or whatever, and I would just do the same thing all the time. So I tried it out. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And then I moved to Oklahoma City. Had a hard time finding somewhere where I fit in, and then Complete West started. So, and there I've been since you guys opened. And I work in healthcare. I'm an MRI tech. So.
Why were you apprehensive about CrossFit? And did you have like a previous athletic background?
I had zero athletic background. I think we were talking about this the other day. In high school, I was in the color guard. So the most athletic thing I did was twirl a flag. Otherwise, that was pretty much it. When I went with my friend the first day, and I was just seeing all the people that were there and the things that they were doing, I was like, well, I don't want to do all that. I don't want to get bulky, and Jamie and I are ladies of a certain age. And so we grew up during a time where it was like, women, you are skinny, you are, skinny equals healthy. That's how you're supposed to look. And this part I can't speak for you, but it was just like, you don't want to get all muscled up and bulky. And the guy that owned the gym, he's like, look at me, he was very lean and, strong and everything. And he's like, you're not going to get bulky. You're not going to, look like that. So, and then, the more I did it, I really enjoyed it. And working in healthcare, just the things I have to do with my body, lifting people, moving people. I thought, man, this is really good. It's going to help me get stronger to be able to do that. And so that was my initial, like, oh yeah, this is going to be really good. But then the longer I've done CrossFit and the older I get, the more I see my elderly patients and how just being able to move and do basic things and how CrossFit or CrossFit style workouts can help with that. So that's why I like it and why I keep doing it.
You remember your first CrossFit workout? Do you remember what it was?
I was trying to think of that the other day. I think it's similar to it. I don't think we did a run. What's normally what you guys have new members do?
Like a baseline test?
Yeah. Is it like a run and something else, or?
It's changed so much over the last few years, but yeah, generally it's like a run, air squats, push-ups, sit-ups.
Okay, it was something like that.
Helen's another one that people will do sometimes for new because it's kind of low risk, low barrier to entry for that.
Yeah, I think I did the one where it was like, instead of a run, it was the row and then squats, sit-ups, push-ups, things like that. So yeah, but I liked it. I was like, oh, okay.
What about you, Jamie?
I like if it didn't make me run.
Yeah. What about you, Jamie? All the same stuff.
Okay, so I've never done CrossFit before, started at CrossFit Complete West. the two girls that I started with, they knew Kristen, and we were at Planet Fitness doing stuff. And she was like, well, let's go over and see what Kristen does at CrossFit. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that. And she's like, she goes, no, it'll be fun. And I said, okay, I'll try it for 1 month. Like, I'm going to do month to month and just see if I like it or not. And so Croy did my on ramp. And I don't remember what my first workout was. I don't even know who the coach was. I don't know. I think because I was so nervous and like going into a new, because I'd never done anything like that before. So, but it was fun. And I just so we started out, I just did like 3 days a week. And then I would cherry pick like what I wanted to do. I'd be like, okay, well, how about this day? Let's do that one. They're not running that day, or, oh, I don't know about that bar. So, but I remember, the one guy, I can't remember his name. He coached quite a bit whenever I was there. I liked him.
Troy, do you remember doing her on ramp? Was she pretty bad when she showed up, or did she move kind of well?
I don't think she was. I feel like I remember it. I feel like, I mean, the basic movements, squats, presses, things like that were definitely there. You could tell that she had plenty of workout experience. It was more along the lines of, which is like that with everybody, snatches, clean and jerks, things like that. But that's awesome.
Yeah. So the topic for the day, it's not a really, the title, I guess, doesn't really roll off the tongue very well, but it's kind of the crux and like the whole point of having a coach. And so the topic today is how do coaches, or how can coaches best get athletes to do the things that they don't want to do? So open the floor. Who's got some ideas?
Is that just like, are you referring to like movements or anything in specific?
All of it. Any and everything you could think of. Jamie was just talking about kind of cherry picking workouts, right? So that's one of the things that as a coach you'll sometimes see. I don't know about Croy and Savannah, but I'll notice if I see sort of a habit from some members showing up or not showing up for certain things, and oftentimes I'll try to talk to them about it and try to open up their perspective to some other stuff. But I'm curious, you guys, Savannah and Croy, you guys been coaching for a long time. Susan and Jamie, you guys been coming to the gym for a long time. Like, what have you seen that works? What have you seen that doesn't work?
I mean, I think first, like you mentioned, it's kind of a weird way to put it, getting athletes to do things they don't want to do, but I think it's just a matter of working on your weaknesses, because I think most of the time it's either something that hurts physically or you just absolutely despise the movement. And odds are, if those two things are true, then it's a weakness and it's something you need to work on. And I feel like one of the best things for, just making it attractive to athletes is if the coach makes it seem attractive, make it look sexy. If we're doing tempo back squats that day and your leg strength is not there, you can make it fun and energetic and give them the reason why behind it. I think that's also one of the biggest things is understanding, like, okay, why do I need to work on these specific weaknesses or things? What's the intention behind it? What is the goal behind it? And to give them that reason rather than just, oh, I hate doing this movement, I'm going to skip today. I feel like that makes a big difference. But
before I go, I'm curious to hear what Susan and Jamie had to say. I'd like to listen to you guys.
I think it kind of goes back to what Corey was saying. It's like, why aren't they wanting to do that movement? Because, everyone that comes, I feel like, to the gym, if they're already coming, they want to be there. They're not lazy. It's not about that. It's just like, why don't you like it? For me personally, there's plenty of stuff I don't like doing. And I really want to cherry pick sometimes, but I also know, gosh, I don't like it for a reason. Why don't I like it? So it's something I try to work at. Thrusters, I hate thrusters more than anything. squats and weight over your head, that just sounds terrible. But I just do what I can. I've probably, like, in a workout, used a training bar, just like an empty training bar, and known, like, even though it says, okay, we're doing 55 pounds, well, I can't do that because this hurts or that hurts, or I don't like it. I just don't feel like doing it. But you know what? I'm going to make myself do it, even if I'm doing the bare minimum. And maybe this is not the best advice to anyone out there, but I mean, that's kind of what I do. I don't know, but I try to make myself go, even though it's not something I'm not crazy about, and hopefully I can modify it to where eventually I'll get to that point. But really, Jamie and I do everything we're told, so I don't know why. We're very
Is this a podcast about lying?
yeah, we're always open and willing to do all the things.
Huh.
Most
Roy, yes.
Yeah, everyone nodded.
That's an interesting perspective. What about you, Jamie?
So I don't cherry pick anymore. I just go every single day. So I don't have a choice. That's the way I put it. That's just the way I have to do it to myself. So I'm going to go pull-ups. I don't like working on pull-ups. It's just something that's not for me. It's just hard. So if there's things that just like that, if we're going to work on them and I don't like doing it, I've asked like Nick before, and he'll be like, well, you need to work on negatives, like work on a way that you can get to the pull up instead of getting frustrated and just, I guess really my thing is talking to the coach and just asking them, this is something I don't really like doing. What can I do? The other day I was having trouble with snatches, and Matt's like, okay, I feel like whenever you get here, you're getting to a spot that's sticky. So let's try doing it from the knee and doing, snatches and stuff. So that's one way, just talking to your coaches. And, one thing I think about also on coaches is them wanting or saying, okay, we got to do this, but enthusiasm. I think whenever the coaches, which all of our coaches are really good about, and they just like really take an interest and be like, you know what? Yes, this is what you need to do. Or now I feel like I'm rambling.
You're not.
Oh, you're not. This is all good. Keep going.
But we don't have any coaches that go, oh, well, you can't do that pull up. Just grab a band and work on it. So I think whenever the coach really helps you and works with you, it makes you feel important, and so it makes it a little bit easier. It makes me want to do pull-ups.
The other thing is also just like sometimes it's the fear of doing something and failing. Box jumps.
I don't like doing box jumps.
So, typically a prescribed height is the 20 and 24 inches. And I've done box jumps for a long time, maybe not consistently through a workout, but I do them here and there. But then one day, it's like you trip and you kind of catch yourself before you can face plant on the edge of a box, and it kind of messes with you. And so even just like modifying that kind of stuff and kind of getting over that fear to like jump to a stack of plates or jump to like those meter covers or, things like that. I used to be scared to get on the rope. I'm scared of heights. So, but.
And now she just shimmied right up that thing.
Well, I don't know about that, but I tried.
I think it's interesting that both of you guys are so consistent. Like you've gotten over that hurdle of cherry picking your days, and now you're coming to all the days. What did that for you? Like, what made you decide, like, okay, I'm going to quit cherry picking these workouts, and I'm coming to all of it. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to do whatever, is written for that day. I'm like in it. How did that turn happen for you?
For me, because I was doing the 3 days a week, and then I decided that the only way I was going to do more was to be stronger, and I couldn't cherry pick. So I really wanted to push myself, and so that's whenever I would just get on the Zen planner and I'd be like, okay, 5 days a week I'm going to go. I couldn't do the Saturday thing because there's a lot of people that was there that wasn't in my normal class, and it made me nervous working out with other people. And I'd be like, oh, I don't know. I feel like they're going to be like, oh, well, she's not very good at that. Or I felt like people were like looking at me. Nobody's looking at me ever. But in my mind, I did think that. And so then I did that 5 days a week. And I was like, you know what? I really need to start doing Saturdays. And so then I started doing Saturdays, and it was just like going to a normal class. I mean, then I got to meet more people, and that's one of my favorite days to go now, is so I can see everybody.
I bet your competitiveness played a role in that. Like I can usually bet if I'm walking into a room, I'm probably the most competitive person in the room, unless Jamie's there. So I'm sure that probably played a role too. You know, once you realized, oh, this is actually kind of fun, and you got more involved in the competitive aspect, I'm sure that kind of pushed you a little bit too to do more than just the.
That helps.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think a true desire to want to get better too. You know, like if you truly want to get better, does your desire to get better outweigh your hate for a specific movement or a weakness of yours? You know, it's easy to sit there and complain about not being good at, you know, this movement or that movement, but it's hard to then force yourself to actually work on that movement. But ask yourself, do I truly want to get better at that movement or at this specific set of skills? And if the answer is yes, then you're going to have to make some sacrifices, and it's going to suck for the first few weeks, first few months. But I think that underlying just desire to want to get better should outweigh the hate for the other things. That's why I think it does set Jamie and Susan apart from other athletes. It's like, you know, whether or not you're the completely fittest person in the gym, you're two of the hardest working people in the gym, and you're going to be able to do CrossFit for way longer and probably have a lot more success than people who are the opposite, you know? That's what CrossFit is. I mean, Nick can harp on it for hours, I'm sure, but it's about being good at everything and not great at, you know, one thing or a couple different things. And for that to happen, you have to work on stuff that you hate.
Yeah, one thing that you guys may not, Susan and Jamie, that you may or may not have considered, but like as a coach of the class, you've got to have so many different tools kind of at your disposal to be able to use those specific tools on different athletes, different ways, right? So the way that I would coach Susan is much different than the way that I would coach somebody like, let's just say Beverly, for example. The way we would communicate, the way that I would try to, you know, provide cues or some recommendations would be a little bit different. Same for you, Jamie. So, I mean, what are some things that you guys have seen coaches just totally miss the mark on? Would you rather a coach just get to the point and tell you what the deal is? Do you want them to kind of wrap it in a bow and make it all pretty on the outside? Or do you need to have some type of established rapport with that coach before you are willing to listen to their inputs? Questions like that.
Go ahead.
Oh gosh. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty open-minded, and I'll listen to what they're saying and see. I mean, someone like me, I've been doing it long enough where I can listen to what the coach is saying. Here's what we're going to do. And I'm like, oh, this is what's going on with me right now, and I can't do that. And I figure out a way to modify it, or I just approach them later on and say, hey, that's not going to work out for me. I need something else. Trying
trying to
Jamie's deep in thought. You keep working through that thought. So Savannah and Croy, I know you guys are. You can maybe what I said just previously. Maybe it resonates with you. Maybe it doesn't. But like, have you guys ever had an athlete that you're just trying to get them to not just hear you, but actually put into action, implement what the stuff that you're telling them, but you just feel like you're hitting a brick wall every time. And like, what have you done? How have you managed that situation? What are some different tactics maybe you've used?
I mean, for the most part, I think it depends on the athlete too. I think the relationship and the trust there is important. Like for example, if it was somebody like Dalton, who comes to 3:30 pretty often, me and him are pretty close at this point. Like if I'm giving him a couple cues and they're not clicking, or he's just, not listening, which very rarely happens, but, I might get on him a little bit and motivate him and light a fire. If it's somebody else, then I might give 3 or 4 tries. Because I feel like at that point, if you just continue to harp on them, they almost feel like they're getting picked on, depending on the person. But 3 to 4 tries, and if it's just not clicking and the cues that I'm giving aren't working, then maybe it's worth a 5-minute conversation after class where it's hey, we can work on these drills, or here are a couple different tips and tricks like I have learned, or, I think you could benefit from this specific drill. I think it really just depends on the athlete that you're coaching, because I think we have a wide, range of personalities at the gym, and not one person is coached the same way. And I think that's part of being a good coach, is being able to adapt and, play those different personalities depending on the person.
Yeah, I've had lots of learning experiences through coaching athletes over the years. Definitely, it can be tricky sometimes with all the different personality types. When we had our gym in Edmond, I'll never forget it. I had a woman throw dumbbells at me. I feel like I've never been a coach that's super abrasive in like trying to correct or cue you. And even then, I was pretty passive about the way that I was flowing through the class. But she just had a lot of anxiety, and she was just having a really bad day. And so my takeaway from that has always been that there's just a lot of cues that athletes will give you as far as their reception goes for that day. And like Sundays, athletes might be willing and open to receiving cues, and it's a day where it's like they're going to work through some stuff and they're going to walk out better. And some days they're walking in and they're just trying to survive. And that is not the day that you're trying to necessarily correct a movement or tell them to go faster or harder. It's like you're just trying to make sure that they don't have a breakdown or add to the load that they're already carrying. But over the years, it's tricky, and it is like, it's just an ever-changing picture with athletes as far as the cueing goes. But I've always found that less is more. Less is more, and gauge their temperature when you initially cue them at the beginning of class. And that's going to be a really good indicator as far as like what they're willing to receive as the class goes on. But yeah, sometimes coaching can be a wild ride in one class time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you brought up a couple of those points. Like, obviously, the ingredient number one, you want a coach that really gives a shit about the people that are there, right? But number two, like, there is a coaching instinct, right? Like, is there an appetite today for this person to hear your inputs or anything like that? Do you think that's an easily trainable skill? Do you think some people just naturally kind of have that? Maybe they don't have the tools to like effectively communicate with people yet, maybe because they're still really green. But do you think that that's something that, is that a trainable skill?
I personally think it is. I mean, maybe not trainable, but I think it's more easily achieved than people might think. I think it's just a matter of consistency and being in front of that athlete, more often and vice versa. Like if the athlete is on a consistent training schedule, the coach is on a consistent training schedule, like I'm seeing the same athletes nearly every day at the gym and building that relationship and that trust and being able to be around them and just read and gauge their personalities in the room based off of the norm and what I'm used to. I feel like it's a lot easier than people think. Now, I think it obviously depends on their personality, and it takes a coach that is where their feet are. And if you are present in the moment, and like you said, you truly care about the class and the athletes getting better, then yeah, absolutely. But I think it just depends. Go ahead, Savannah. I know you're about to say something.
I think, is it trainable? Yes, but I definitely think it requires confidence in your own ability, because there's days that you got to walk away from class knowing like I was there to support them, but they might have rejected your coaching, and you can't take that stuff personally. It's just, you might not have gotten the end result that you wanted, but you have to leave knowing that you're a step closer in being able to build that trust, figure out how they like to be communicated with. And I think that for some people with the right personality type, like, it's easily adaptable. Croy, you're obviously one of those personality types that, you just have a great way of connecting with people. So I think that comes more naturally for you. But in some of the coaches that I've seen at other gyms, come through here and there and stuff like that, it's a challenging road for sure. But yeah, it's a humbling job at times, coaching.
Do you think when we talk about credibility, what things could a coach do that like undermines their credibility as a coach? Is it, for instance, for Jamie and Susan, is there a change in how willing you are to take input from a coach that maybe moves poorly, or cherry picks workouts, or doesn't hold himself to the standard? Yeah.
I mean, why hold me to a standard that you're not going to hold yourself to, and going back to what I said earlier about, like I'll try to keep an open mind with coaches, but if there comes a point where, and this might be kind of off topic of what you're saying, but you're not receiving what I'm giving you, like I'm not able to do this, or I'm not doing this, and you're just not getting it. I mean, I think most of the time coaches have been great, but when that coach isn't receiving what I'm trying to tell them, or it's not landing, then I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm done. And then it turns into, I'm more apt to maybe cherry pick classes. But yeah, going back to like the movements and stuff. If you see a coach and you're like, well, I thought we were supposed to squat like this and not like that. And so it's kind of like, well, are they even, when I'm in their class, are they even paying attention to what I'm doing? Am I even doing it correctly? Because there's still movements that I'm like, oh, I didn't realize. Nick kindly pointed out my squats for my wall balls one day. And, and it was something that I didn't realize, like, oh, I'm not going low enough. So is this something that, I don't think I've ever been in class with a coach that I thought didn't really move well, but it's easy to look back like, well, if I was with this coach, were they just not paying attention to me and trying to help me out? And then that's a little discouraging. So
I look at it just like me doing accounting. So it's like I tell Dawson, my son. So if you're doing your checkbook and if I don't keep a checkbook and I'm really bad with my finances and everything, but then I'm supposed to teach you how to do all this. And he's going to look at me like, well, you don't even take your own checkbook. You don't even balance it with the bank or anything. Okay. So then if a coach comes up to me and they're like, oh, we need to do this and that. When you squat, you go sideways, or whenever you do something, I'm not going to listen to them. I mean, that I'm just using that as a reference. I've never had that happen, but I think it makes it a lot easier whenever you do have coaches that, keep their standards to a high standard and they do everything correctly and everything. So that's kind of what I compare it to. But, I'm very black and white though too. So when it comes to that kind of stuff. That sounded kind of abrupt.
No, I mean that's all good. I mean I don't know about Savannah Croy, but I drop into gyms all the time, and I've been coached by people, and they'll come to give me a cue. I think sometimes it's just maybe I am moving wrong. I think sometimes it's maybe just to show somebody that's a potential drop in. There is some type of like one-on-one attention, and they'll give me some type of a cue, or they'll demonstrate something for me, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, no, I'm probably going to keep doing what I'm doing, because what you're doing is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. I'm not going to tell them they're wrong, because I don't want to make them look like a jackass in front of the class. For me, credibility is really important. You got to kind of walk the walk. If you're gonna coach somebody doing something, you kind of need to, in my mind, epitomize that first for yourself. But
I don't know about you guys. I'm curious. I'm a big person of like, I have to understand why. Like, I have to understand why are we doing this? What is the purpose of it? Like, I'm more of, even when I ask questions, I'm not trying to ask questions to undermine anything. I'm asking questions because I'm more like, I get bought in more and I can be more intentional behind the work that I do when I better understand, like, what is this movement working or doing? I know today we were in Nick's 8:30 class, and Lily's a big question person too. So she's like, why are we doing these parallel shoot throughs? Like, what is the point? And she's not asking Nick because she's like, why are we doing these? She's more like, I want to know what muscles I'm trying to engage in as I'm doing the movement to make sure I'm doing it properly. Because especially as I've gone along in this industry, I've noticed that you don't realize how much mind-body connection it takes to perform movements to their fullest capacity. So there's a lot of times you can be doing something even like a squat, and you're not engaging your quads all the way, or you're not engaging your hamstrings. And it's like, it is just, you're lacking that mind-body connection to be able to engage the muscles properly. So I found as time has gone on, the more that I can understand this stuff, like the more that I get intentional with it. And I think it's been even more so after having a baby and coming back from that, because you lose like a lot of stuff. There's so much stuff that goes on during pregnancy and then giving birth. And so I'm like, man, coming back, that, like, even jumping, I was like, what the heck? I jumped with no problem before pregnancy. And now my mind has to work so differently to try to reconnect with my body. I'm like, it's been a journey. It's great for me because I'm like, okay, now I have a different perspective that women have gone through or that they're still going through, to better understand, like, how can I better connect with people in order to assist them through something like jumping. But there's been points that there's been a lot of double unders, and especially in the beginning, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do something way easier instead. But as I've gone along and learned more about the body and how important jumping is, especially for like our lymphatic system, as that's a way to move waste through our body, and it's such an essential part of us aging, I'm like, jumping, because it has such a different meaning to me now, because I'm like, I'm not just jumping to do a double under in a workout. I'm jumping because that's what my body is supposed to do. It's a way for my body to move toxins and waste throughout it so that it can dump it and get it out and allow my body's like mitochondria and cells to regenerate and replenish my skin and allow my metabolism to work properly. So I'm curious for you guys, does that stuff play a role for you in having more of a desire to not want to cherry pick or want to push to do the things that kind of make you uncomfortable or might feel like you're like, oh, my body doesn't really like to. For me, at the time, it was my body doesn't want to jump and it doesn't want to run. So I'm going to try and push those things to the side. So I'm just curious for you guys, like, what is there anything in particular that helps you overcome those hurdles?
I think too, I look at it as I've got older, whenever I was younger, I played basketball, played softball, I ran track, I did all these things. Even through college, I did 5Ks and everything. Well, then whenever I started in my accounting and during accounting time, it's like literally I would sit in the office from 7 a.m. in the morning till nearly 9 o'clock at night during tax season. And my body did not move. I did that through pregnancies, everything. And I had no idea like the toll that it was taking on my body. And so then whenever I kind of got away from the office part of it and now I do it at home, well, now it's totally different. Now I'm going back. And it's like you said with the jump rope. Okay, used to you do jump rope and you didn't even think about that kind of stuff. Even after kids, I did jump rope, didn't think about it. But then after setting for so many years and the closer that I get to being 50, okay, now when I do jump rope, I'm like, okay, hold on a second. I've got to go to the bathroom. Okay, that I should not have to be doing those kind of things. So you learn, it's like trying to make your mind, learn to, no, I don't need to do that. I need to be doing jump rope because I have to strengthen all of those muscles that I've let go. So I look at it anymore as I've got older. If there's something I could tell some of the younger ones is just don't ever stop. Yes, sometimes we have to do jobs that are hard and you're more sedentary or whatever, but somewhere in that schedule, even if it's on a lunch break, figure out a way to move. You just don't ever stop moving. I don't know. That's kind of what I've learned a lot as I've got older and went from active to sedentary to more active now.
Do you guys count your steps? Like how it's funny you bring up movement because that's such an important piece to longevity, to taking care of your body. A lot of people talk about like your water in your sleep, but your next important is actually getting a minimum of 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. And that most people, because our life is so sedentary now, they sit at a desk, they eat their meals sitting, they do all these things sitting. And so you're lucky to get to your 3,000 steps a day. How many steps, like how active are you guys in moving throughout the day, would you say? Do you count your steps? Do you have a watch or a device that counts your steps?
I mean, I have one. I can't really wear it because of my job. I'm in and out of a room with a magnet, so it would, but I probably don't get as many steps as I should throughout the day, just because the longer I've been in my profession, I've been able to get a job that's a little easier on me because I'm just like, oh, I'm getting, it's that mindset like, oh, I'm getting older. I can't take call in the middle of the night and drag these beds, from here to here. And so my patients are a lot more walkie-talkie anymore. And I get to sit a little bit more. So I need to work on that. I was also wondering about your question about getting members to do things as far as outside the gym, because I know you guys are like, sleep is important, your nutrition is important, so the steps, I was wondering if that's something you were referencing as well with your question, because I was going to say good luck.
Yes, all that. I mean, there's probably a week that doesn't go by that I'll get like a nutrition question, and I'm not a registered dietitian. I don't have any type of nutrition certification. I've got a protocol that I recommend to a lot of people, and I'll give them kind of like wave tops. Or people that will approach me and be like, hey, I want to do a pull up or anything like that. And I'll sort of give them just a real quick, like, hey, this is something you should do. It's not going to be a quick process. Oftentimes though, it kind of falls on deaf ears, people, some members just don't do it. And I'm curious why that is. From a member perspective to a coach, like you took the time to come up with a thought to potentially approach a coach about, hey, I want to do this. How do I do this? Whether it's lose weight or this, or I want to compete in, I want to go run a 5K or half marathon or something. And somebody may drop some nuggets to you, but sometimes they're like, no, never mind. I changed my mind. Like, why do you think that happens? And is it the coach's job to like file that away, and then the next time they see that, should they go back and like readdress that, or is that just it's up to it's the member's responsibility to kind of pursue that?
What's that Ronnie Coleman quote, Nick? Everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, but nobody wants to lift heavy ass weight.
It's really true, man.
I've never heard that. I think it's the desire. Again, I think it's part of that underlying desire to truly want to get better, and knowing that getting better is a process.
Yeah.
And you have to fall in love with that process and the things that you don't enjoy doing. And you were mentioning it earlier. I think just the relationship around working out and being fit in general plays a huge part of it. Especially like as a former athlete, growing up and this and that, like I probably had it a lot easier than some other people as far as like being coached by coaches. But I mean, if you think about it, like high school athletics, college athletics, a lot of it is, working out or doing something physical is your punishment. And, you mess up, go run a mile. You do this, we're doing this many up downs. And I remember the thought, as soon as I stopped playing baseball, I said, wow, if I never want to run again, I don't have to. If I truly didn't want to. And I was lucky because I fell into CrossFit and fell in love with that process before I stopped playing baseball. So then like my relationships with the punishments being physical, it was like, oh, I guess it's just another chance to get better. But I think that plays a big part of it too. I think that's a reason why, like if you look at Savannah, what she's been able to do with the Mustang softball team and, our summers together, like we've had so many former softball players that have continued to work out and do CrossFit and train with us. And I think a big reason for that is because they have fallen in love with the process, and we made it fun. And it wasn't like, hey, we're doing this as punishment today. Like we're doing this because we truly do want you to get better. And we want you to realize that it's a process and it's going to stink. Nobody likes working out, but this is the reason behind why we're doing it. I think that's important.
Yeah, with Susan and Jamie, with both of them, I've seen there's two things that stick out in my mind, one for each of you. With Susan, I didn't play a role in it, but I remember shortly after I became a coach at Complete West was, correct me if I'm wrong, was the first time you actually ever competed in anything, and that was alongside Lindsey Berry, right, at the combine or the duel or something along those lines, right? And me knowing you, I know you're not somebody that wants to be highlighted in a class. You don't want eyes on you. What made you decide to step out of your comfort zone? Because you could have just gone on about your life and never done it. But for me, I think every athlete in the gym needs to experience a competition at some point, because it will allow you to level up every time. I've never seen somebody go to a competition, no matter how poorly they do, leave the competition without gaining something from it. And with Jamie, you and I had a little interaction during the Open last year. You know what I mean? Where a lesser member, a lesser athlete, would have just shied away from the challenge of a movement that they just couldn't tackle at the moment. But man, you overcame it in the middle of the workout, and like we talked about it. Like you left the gym that day like so much better than you walked in. For both of you, like what was it that allowed you to like step beyond what you were comfortable with, or what the easy route would have been?
I have no idea. Honestly, I just kind of plead temporary insanity on that one. Because I think that's the last time I did it. And I'm glad I did it.
You did the Hunger Games.
Well, I mean, yeah, but just like, that was more of a team. But I mean, Lindsay, she was going to be my partner. So that was that was the biggest part of it, just doing something fun with her. And I was like, you know what? I know how I feel about it. I'm not going to go in there. I'm not going to win, whatever. So here's my other option is I'm going to do it and have fun. And I did. I really enjoyed it. I don't know why I haven't done another one. I'm just an anxious person, but but it definitely, it was fun and great and anxiety inducing at the same time. I don't know how to explain it, but for someone who, like I said, I've never been an athlete, I've never competed, and I'm not usually a competitive person, but it was a good time.
You're quietly competitive, but you bring up the stress, like the anxiety. There's distress and there's eustress. There's some things that'll bring out good, even though they do elicit some stress. And I think competition is one of those things. You may be stressed, but it's you're going to you'll gain something from it. What about you, Jamie? Why didn't you just leave? Why didn't you just leave that day? Why didn't you just tell me to kind of move on? And you just had it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Because that's just not me.
What was it?
That was whenever we was doing the open workout, and it was the chest to bar.
Oh,
the
okay,
pull-up thing.
Uh-huh.
Well, and it was at a time whenever I was going through so much at home. We had so much going on, and my mind was not there. And then it was like I just could not get the movement. And Nick, he just kept no repping me. It was like he was like, I don't care what you're going through. I'm not counting your reps. And
I remember
like,
that. He was not sorry about it.
He was like, you can do this. And he did. He told me, because you can do this, just do it. And I'm like, okay, but I can't do it. And I kept saying that. And anyway, it was a whole fiasco that morning.
Well, that kind of brings.
But I did do it.
You did it. You crushed it. You know what I mean? It was an emotional morning, but it was, you did awesome. But what maybe you guys didn't realize, for me in that moment, I was kind of put in a dilemma. Other people were watching me and were going to see what I did in that moment. So as a coach, I had to make a decision. I could take the easy route, just much like you could have, and just agreed that you couldn't do it, and I could have just agreed to let you not do a movement that I knew that you could. But then, what does that do to the other members in the class? Would that have undermined my credibility as a coach?
Yes,
I don't know. I don't know.
That's what I think. And and then if I would have just walked out, then she just quit and walked out. Or you could have counted those reps, and then people know, well, she cheated. So.
For sure. Yeah.
Do you guys feel like there's anything right now that you guys would like to be pushed harder on, or challenge yourself more, like movements or anything like that you feel like, man, this is an area where I should probably try to get some extra, we call it goat work. Nick created some space in the workout, or in today's workout, to do some of that work. But are there particular things that you guys are like, yeah, I want to get better at that, or I need to get better at that?
I always need to get better at pull-ups.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like this morning I got a band out, and I'm like, why do we not use bands? But he always says to do negatives and stuff. So I don't know. I need
I
to
agree
work
with that.
on pull-ups.
Yeah.
What would that, I mean, so pull-ups are a thing. So what would that look like for you? What is a goal? Like, are you able to do any strict pull-ups? Are you wanting to get a certain amount? Like, what does your goal look like for that?
I can't get any strict pull-ups. I don't know. And, as much as I tell myself, I need to work on it when I have time after class, or or make time to do progressions, I don't.
I'm the exact same way. I mean, so back to his question earlier, whenever he said, like, if you ask a coach for, to help you. Well, so I told Nick, I said, hey, I really need to work on pull-ups. He goes, okay, every day, just like you go and do the little GHD machine, go over and do negatives every single day. Do I do them? No. Because it just irritates me and I don't like it, because then my elbow kind of starts hurting and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get a pull-up. So I was prime example. And then, so.
Do you guys feel like you would be, it's funny that you guys both want to do pull-ups and you both go to the 5:30 a.m. class. So if you had like a little posse to where you spent 5 to 10 minutes after class doing goat work more as like a little community or a group, do you feel like you would do it then?
I know I would, because Lindsay Berry and I were doing that for a little while.
Yeah, I like accountability.
Yeah, she had a goal of getting strict pull-ups, and we were talking about it one day, and she said, oh, well, I'm going to, do these. She would do like a hold or a negative, negatives, and she had a little program of what she was doing. So I just was like, okay, well, I'll just do it with you. But I've slacked off.
How long did you do that for?
Oh, I can't remember. With us being at the 5:30 a.m. class, and we say we don't have time because, we have to get to work and stuff. Sometimes we have, we make time to run our mouths, but that's about it. Sometimes it is hard to be able to do it after class. So we did it for a while on Saturdays, like after the Saturday class, where, you didn't have to like run off and be anywhere. So, but
maybe I should make us a board. Like we could do a board and I could put it in, and then we put our names and we're like, okay, on Monday, Tuesday, every day that we do like so many things.
Maybe we might just stand at the board and be like, I'm not doing that.
Well, we had talked at one point in one of our in a meeting about maybe having like a will wall, right? Like I will do something. So not a goal wall. I think goals. We could go down a rabbit hole with goals, but saying that you're going to do something and like actually putting like ink or paint or chalk, whatever we would use on the wall, to say that I will do this. Then if I see your name up there as I will get a pull up by the end of the year. Let's say that's the goal, the thing you're saying you're going to do. Then I can hold you to it, right? If I see you like not just skipping out on a day and you're not doing stuff. I don't know if that stuff matters to members in the gym or not. If they would want accountability from random people or if they would just tell them to F off.
I would probably do the latter, yeah. Sorry. Just being honest.
We might have to do a little experiment here, Nick and Croy, because I feel like there's quite a few people who would like to achieve a pull-up. I think, and I'm curious too, like if there were benchmarks along the way of what you're trying to hit en route to a pull-up, would that be helpful? Knowing, like seeing like, okay, my first goal, just hypothetically, was to bar hang for 1 minute. Can I bar hang? Yes. Okay, my next goal is to be able to do X amount of negatives. Like, can I hit that? Yes. And then your goal from there is like, it's like you're stepping up a ladder on the path to hit that one pull up. Is that something like would that be helpful in you guys staying more consistent on a path to a pull up if you can see you're getting closer?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, because there's like plenty of movements I thought I would never be able to do, and not to say that I'm great at them, but I was just like, I'll never be able to do a double under ever. And and once I could, get one, okay, now I can string 5 together. Now I can do 10 without, and just stringing more and more. So I think it would be helpful.
Do you think that goes back to Savannah, like a few months ago in one of our coaches meetings, we were talking about the importance of maybe all of us getting on the same page as far as what progressions for certain movements look like, and those progressions are the milestones. Maybe that is something, that I think you're right. I think that it probably is a good thing that we maybe reattack that. I don't know. Would you want it? Would it still be kind of like an individual responsibility, similar to how like the Band of Savages was? If people want to partake, they can partake. They can look at the progressions or not. Or would you want it something like specifically programmed as part of like the weekly programming?
I think it'd be fun to experiment and just start off with something specific like a pull up, and like this is the gold standard, like this is whatever the gold standard, but then underneath like you have those little milestones along the way of what you're trying to hit. But I think ultimately like that progression to get there, you would pretty much pick up like each progression would have, everyone would be doing that same training to hit that progression. So the training might change slightly after you hit each milestone, kind of similar to what you're doing with your Tota Bar training for the competitors.
Yeah.
Because essentially you're just working different pull and push muscles is what you're doing. But then it's like that becomes to where anyone can do the pull up progression, and they pick up, the only specific would be what milestone are you picking up at, because you can check off those other ones. So, Jamie might be starting on the negatives and Susan starting more with just like needing to build up her grip on the bar hang. Obviously that's not the case, but but then you're still doing it together to ultimately try to each continue working up that ladder. It would be interesting to try it out to see like, okay, who's going to get on this bandwagon? And even people who have a pull up, you're still trying to get multiple pull-ups. They might be trying to get to a butterfly or a kip and then a butterfly. So I think there's potential. Like we could get a pretty decent amount of people trying to work that pull-up progression together. I don't know. It's just a thought. I don't know.
No, I think that's great. It reminds me a little bit of, competitors extra type stuff. We'd get groups together and just go after the 4:30 class, and whether it was work on snatch or clean and jerk in the corner or whatever. But I don't think, labeling it as competitors extra is necessarily, required, because like you said, some people are just trying to get their first pull up. Some people are just trying to, hit a certain number on a certain lift. I think that just having that, that option to do it with somebody, keep you accountable, helps a ton. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, like no matter what stage that you're at, a pull-up's such an awesome goal to have. It's bigger than just being able to do a pull-up. It's so great for your grip strength, because that's such an important piece to as we age, to as we do things. So I think of it as like even a bigger picture. I mean, you can get more people on board to enhance that grip strength, to be able to enhance, those different muscles, because you're going to have to pull and push. Like it just plays into such a bigger piece of working with your body than just the competitive side of being able to do a pull up. So I think it would be awesome. I mean, if we put that out, I would love to see you two jumping on board and trying to bring as many people on board as you can. That's what we've secretly done with today's podcast is we're just going to corner Susan and Jamie and we're going to peer pressure them into doing some shit that they're like, oh my God, I should have never opened my mouth.
See, that's what it was.
Okay.
And Susan could do the garage games alongside Jamie, so she can dust off those.
I will
comments.
be.
I tried to get her to.
I'll be unavailable at that time. So.
Yeah. Huh. Do you guys have anything else?
I don't think so.
So.
I don't think so.
I want to ask one more question to Troy and Savannah, and then we can end it from there. One of our jobs as a coach is to make sure nobody hurts themselves. What about when you are telling somebody, "Hey, man, like what you're doing is going to hurt you," and they don't listen? And it's multiple times in the class. It's days. It's weeks. What do you do then when somebody is now becoming a high risk to themselves because they are their ego or they're too proud to listen to your inputs? Have you guys dealt with that, and what did you do?
I mean, for sure, absolutely. There's always people, Well, I think that's part of it, and you mentioned it, is just understanding like they are people, and not taking it personally. And he or she's not listening to me just because they don't want to listen to me. It's like, no, they're people too. There's egos, there's feelings involved. And I think that it's just a matter of, once again, just making the why important. Why doing it to a standard and doing it to a certain way is going to improve your, whether it's mobility, your strength, or flexibility, whatever. Just stressing that importance. Like if they're not able to, fully extend overhead or fully get to the depth on their squat, and they continue to just add and add and add weight, it's like, well, no, you're going to have to, hit that range of motion. If you truly want to reach your maximum strength potential, you're going to have to recruit every bit, and that's going to require you to get full range of motion. And I feel like I've had a handful of honest conversations with people where it's just like, hey, listen, like I'm trying to get you on the right path to, accomplishing what you want to accomplish. It's going to require sometimes you to have to do lighter weight than you're wanting to really hone in on that technique. I think you programming, I think, helps out a ton, because there are definitely days where that is the focus, and it's stressed like, hey, today is meant to be light and snappy, and it forces people to go lighter and focus on technique and their form. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Savannah? Have you ever dealt with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it happens more so once people can move well enough that they start being able to add load, is when it gets to a dangerous and compromising position. And then it's that I just want to go faster. I want to be able to lift heavier because they get so competitive. And for some, it's difficult to slow down and go back to make sure that you're getting some of those fundamental movements down properly. For me, I've had honest conversations, and I've said like, hey, you're just putting yourself at risk. Like we've got to be able to slow down to go back and hit these movement patterns properly. If you continue on this, you're going to make your injury worse, or you're going to get injured. And at that point, it's the athlete takes on their own risk, because we're all adults. And so it's different if I'm talking to some high school athletes and I'm like, no, you're not doing that. But I found where I can say my piece about it and they still want to do it. And it's like, okay, I've said what the risks are. I don't feel like it's a life or death situation at this point. Like, you know how I feel about it. And sure enough, most of the time I feel like an injury comes along, or it's a nagging thing that never goes away. But I think the biggest thing that I've seen, and you can correct me, Croy, is it's the biggest thing I've seen with people is especially on when we do strength stuff and it's meant to slow down and move slow because you are working your body out in such a different capacity than when you're going fast. People feel like they don't get a good enough workout in. But you have to understand, like, on such a cellular level, the way that the body's actually breaking down, you don't have to feel like you're dead when you walk out of class to know, like, there's real changes that are occurring if you just, like, stay the course and stay slow and, you know, heavy resistance training. Like, it's not meant to always be with super fast and, you know, feels like you're going to die at the end of a
Oh, yeah.
workout kind of stuff.
For sure. That was one of my big things I stressed yesterday's workout, because it was different. Like, you know, hanging on the rig and then doing sit-ups. Like, it's different. It is completely different. And I'm sorry, not sit-ups. But anyways, stressing that, like, hey, hollow body holds. This stuff is important. And today is not meant to absolutely destroy your CNS and make you breathe heavy and die. This is muscle stamina. And being able to, your muscles being able to last longer in a workout is like one of, if not the most important things about, you know, being an athlete, depending on the workout and what's going on. And there are often times where we don't get to just work on that within a workout. I think that, you know, flexibility in the way NIC programs allows athletes to, and coaches to offer that. Now it's just a matter of obviously the coach, you know, stressing the importance and the why behind it. But that seems to have helped a ton, I feel like, at least the past couple of months.
Yeah. What about you, Nick?
I think it's definitely situation dependent. There's some people that I can be pretty frank and candid with in the moment, and it's really kind of like a short-term battle of wills, and usually I'll outlast them in the awkward silence or just eye contact until they usually will agree or something like that. Oftentimes it's a conversation outside of class that maybe hopefully I'll say the right thing that'll make them kind of think about it and come back the next day, maybe just a little bit more willing to change. I know it doesn't go over well with everybody, but I am not opposed to adjusting people's weights and stuff mid-workout without asking them. I know that is not my go-to method. However, I have done that, but I also will do that. I'll also increase it sometimes too. If I see somebody that's just, their intensity is, that they're moving so quickly that they're not hitting the desired stimulus, and I actually need them to slow down and have to exert some more force on a load, I'll increase the load. A good example of a workout could be like, let's take that Garage Games workout, Jamie, where it's the deadlifts and the burpees. It's not an astronomical amount of burpees, but because the deadlift weight is so light, it kind of will entice you to go unbroken and fast on those deadlifts. Where actually, even though it's a lighter weight, it might actually increase like the risk of injury to somebody, where if it was a heavier load that forced somebody to slow down, it could actually be safer. Hopefully, and I think a lot of our coaches would do this anyway. The program may be written with certain words, but none of that is etched in stone. If the class just isn't getting isn't understanding what's happening here, like they can adjust midday, and it's not gonna screw anything up. We got to find unique ways to monitor and like almost govern intensity and volume, because some people will just it's full throttle all the time. I've never been an owner at a gym, but I don't know what you do when you have somebody who is just not coachable and they are putting themselves at risk. Is that a conversation where you consider, hey, this isn't the right spot for you? I don't know. I don't necessarily want to go down that rabbit hole necessarily here on this podcast, but I could see how that could potentially be an option for some folks. Yeah, I don't know. I probably mess up every time though. Every time. People are having a bad day, and maybe I don't say the right things the right way. But
I don't know how y'all do
Lot.
so well at. I mean, y'all are really, really great coaches. Just because, I mean, I think we have a lot of great coaches in our gym, and everybody is very understanding, very, supportive. And I think everybody pretty well kind of knows everybody. Well, like yesterday, that was the first time I had Abigail, and she did good to me. I mean, I thought she was wonderful. And so I think we have a lot of great coaches. So I'm really proud of everybody.
Well, thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
I mean, I
Sweet.
think you guys are pretty great too. But
Thanks, Susan. You're the best.
Coach Susan, she's kind of like the background coach in every
Coach
class.
East side,
no, I'm
Susan.
not.
Yeah. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, I'm going to end the live stream, end the recording now. You guys good with that?
Yep.
Good.
Cool.